This is RV Life with Kim Hanna, where big rigs and free campsites and kitties that camp actually go together, right? We used to camp just about anywhere, but when we moved into our 34-foot fifth wheel, everything changed. It's big, it's awesome, but it doesn't exactly fit everywhere. And the last thing we want is to get stuck somewhere. So how do we still find hidden free campsites, even with a big rig and no neighbors in sight? Today, I am going to show you exactly how we do that. When we started boondocking, we had a tiny hybrid camper. It fit almost anywhere. Then we moved into a bumper pull and eventually into our fifth wheel trailer when we went seasonally full-time. We knew that we needed more space to actually live in our RV, but we also knew that we were unwilling to give up boondocking. That meant finding a rig that was big enough to be comfortable, but yet small enough to fit in most of the places that we love. Turning around can be one of the biggest challenges. You can often get into a spot, but it's not always the easiest thing to get out, especially if you have to back out. That is why we take scouting seriously. When we are researching new areas, we rely on certain apps. We really love Campendium, Boondocking, iOverlander, and The Dirt, all the free versions. We also love our paper maps and our boondocking guidebooks. We especially love the National Forest camping book and the BLM, Bureau of Land Management camping book. Those are really awesome for finding those hidden spaces when you're going to unfamiliar areas. But the apps that we use are just the beginning. Our real secret is all about scouting. Here's what we're looking at when we're out there. We're looking at the width of the road and any ruts that are in the road. And we're especially considering here, is our trailer actually going to hit the truck bed rails when we tow down that road? We're looking at tree clearances above the top of our rig and along the sides. Are we going to be scratching up the sides or tearing up the roof, ripping the air conditioning off because there's a big limb that is overhanging and we are just too tall to make it underneath? Another really important thing for us to look at is the ground clearance. And that means that we're looking at tree stumps that are not leveled at the ground level. They're kind of sticking up where you can easily hit them with something like your sewer pipe, or your mechanism that's down there, rip that thing totally off. Big boulders and big rocks on the ground are also something that you need to be aware of. Are you going to easily be able to maneuver in and then back out and get around in that spot? We also want to know how level are the roads to get into the spot as well as the campsite itself. Because if it's not level, if you have one of those automatic leveling systems on your rig, you can get yourself into a position where it's trying to level and it's lifting the tires off the ground because that's the only way that it can reach level. We are also checking the weather, and that way we are looking for any potential weather-related issues. Lots of boondocking in national forest land means that you are in areas with a lot of dirt on the ground, with maybe not necessarily a lot of rock coverage and not a lot of grass. So that means in a heavy rain, especially if you're like multiple days of rain, you can get to a situation where the ground just turns into like a big mud puddle. And it is super easy to sink and get stuck in something like that. The other thing that you're concerned about with water falling out of the sky is if you're boondocking in the desert, which we do a lot since we live in Arizona, and you can get stuck in a flash flood situation where your exit from the campsite is blocked. So maybe your campsite itself is safe, but you actually have to cross what is typically a dry wash to be able to get out. In those heavy rain situations, when those washes start flooding and flowing, you can easily get stuck on the wrong side of the wash. I did a video all about the safety concerns that you have when you are camping in the desert. I'll leave a link in the description below. I have to admit that more than once we have been stuck in situations where we had to wait it out because we didn't leave before a rain came through in a forested area that turned into mud. So that means that you're waiting for the rain to stop, you're waiting for the ground to soak it up, and sometimes even like help to evaporate to get that ground to the point that it is hard enough for you to be able to safely drive out and not get stuck. So I'm talking from experience here. Trust me on that one. And don't forget safety. If you pull into a place that just doesn't look or feel right, trust your gut. There are lots of places where people have moved into what are typically boondocking places, and homeless people are living full time. So in an area that maybe used to be safe and, you know, a good place to boondock is not necessarily safe today. So don't worry about trusting your gut. When your gut is telling you something just doesn't feel right, you probably should leave, do it. One way to get a lay of the land and how safe an area might be is to talk to locals, whether they be rangers or law enforcement people or other campers. They are a wealth of information that knows what is going on in an area and if it's a place that you're willing to stay, or maybe we should kind of like move along and find something else. You also want to read reviews from fellow RVers, especially the ones that they are leaving reviews on those boondocking apps that I mentioned earlier. They are really great about telling you the accessibility, how easy it is to get in and out of a place, and also the safety concerns. Take a look at those reviews. They give you a lot of information. But pro tip here is to check the date of the review. You don't want to be looking at old reviews and rely solely on them. We have actually seen places that we personally love to boondock closed down completely by the authorities, or have a problem where a lot of homeless people have basically set up encampments and they are no longer safe places to go. The other thing that we like to do when we are scouting a new area that we've never been to before is that we will stay at least one night, usually just one night, in a campground or an RV park that's nearby. At that point, we will unhook the trailer, we will get Max and Izzy settled in and leave them there, and Pete and I will take the truck and we will go out and scout the boondocking areas that are nearby. The added benefit to that, especially when we're staying at an RV park, is that we are hooked up to power, and so we're topping off our batteries. We're able to top off our freshwater tank with fresh water. We're dumping our gray and our black tanks. We're throwing out our trash, and we're actually even sometimes able to do some laundry. In those instances where we are not able to be at an RV park or a campground and we are in an area all hooked up, we can't really scout in advance without the trailer behind us, here's what we do then. Pete will actually jump onto his bike while I stay in the truck with Max and Izzy and make sure that everything is safe and secure. Pete will pedal down the road and he's looking around to check sites for our rig. He's basically looking around to make sure that it is doable for us to tow in there before we actually commit to driving down the road.
Yeah, I think this one's good. Just I think we need to get the angle right, but we can get in here just fine.
We don't wing it, not because we're nervous, but because after years of doing this, we realize that it is just not worth the stress or the risk to tow down a road that's unfamiliar to us, especially when there's two cats in the mix. RV parks are expensive and they're crowded. We boondock because we love the scenery, the solitude, and the freedom. Yes, it's more work to find a good site, but we believe that it is 100% worth it. You can boondock with a big rig if you know your limits and you prepare well. If you're dreaming of quiet, beautiful places with no hookups and no neighbors, don't let your rig size hold you back. Would you like and subscribe if you found this helpful? And let us know in the comments, what is your biggest challenge when you are trying to find a free campsite? We would love to try to help. If you're wondering how we stay safe at these remote spots, go watch our boondocking safety video. It's full of gear tips and real life stories. I'll leave a link in the description below. If you want to see how we actually power our rig while we're boondocking, you know, solar, batteries, inverter setup, that whole thing, we've got a video that shows you exactly how we make everything work. Go check out that video next. I'll leave a link in the description below and I'll see you over there.